Good evening, I'm Diana Ebo, and I will be presenting my evaluation on the famous Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. Now, when you hear Dr. Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream, what's the first thing that usually come to mind? Many would say that it is an iconic speech about equality. Many would say that it was a memorable and heartfelt speech, about what's happening at that moment, especially the older generation. And some would just say it was one of the greatest speeches that's ever given by man, a black man, that is, civil rights leader. But it's the ticket of where it was given, at the Lincoln Memorial Monument. And no other speech given by a black man has ever been presented there to millions in front of. So that's where, when you think of it, you get those different types of, Martin Luther King Jr. speech. Yeah, I understand. But was MLK Jr. just a man with a dream? Was his speech merely selfish about a singular man who had a dream or a vision of what equality was? Or could one actually say it was a hope for a birth of a new nation, a brotherhood of all races? Now, deemed as one of the greatest, of course, iconic speeches ever given in 1963, many could possibly remember where they were at that time. I know I can't. I wasn't even thought of yet or born. But hearing stories from my grandparents, my mother, siblings, brothers, sisters, cousins, it doesn't matter. They'll tell you, I was sitting in front of my TV, or some said I've actually marched and went to the Lincoln Memorial. But most of it was hearsay of watching it on live television. But the one thing I loved about that speech when I watched it, when I read the transcript, was what he started with. And he said, to quote, because I want to read it perfectly, I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration of freedom of our nation. I was like, stop right there. There was so much said in that one sentence by a man, a black man. He said, not his own race, not his own self. He said, our. He was being inclusive in all races, all brotherhoods. He thought of us as one nation at that very moment, that this is going to be one of the greatest speeches ever. He didn't know it was going to be a greatest speech, but he did know in a sense because he had millions in front of him, black, white, it didn't matter, woman, young, old, it didn't matter. He had it, so he knew ain't nobody else done this. And the other great parts of that speech, too, was how he stated he had a dream. Again, it wasn't him being singular or being selfish, talking about something he grew up wanting. Yes, it was, but he was saying it so much verbatim that repetition was, I have a dream, I have a dream. Because what he was trying to do at that very moment was impute it in our own hearts, in our own minds, subconsciously and consciously, so that it starts to manifest, that we can also see that same dream he had, that same vision he had, that he had a dream. That was important to me because, it's like, okay, why is he saying I have a dream? He wants you to know you can have that dream too. It's not just because I'm black and this is what I'm going through as a black man, as a black Negro nation. This is all of us, that we can all sit down together one day. And he kind of did the same thing when he was coming to the conclusion of his speech too, with the Let Freedom Ring. Now, let freedom ring from the hilltops of New Hampshire, or let freedom ring from the hilltops of Mississippi, or the Rockies of the Colorado. Like, he was like, it don't matter where, if it's north, south, east, or west. When you think of a bell, you don't just ring a bell once. You ring it until you hear it. So us saying let freedom ring is keeping that instillment of hope, of his dream that we can come together as a brotherhood under one nation. And that was so important to me. So I love this speech. It meant a lot. I wish I could have probably be part of that era of watching it and witnessing it personally, because in conclusion, I say Dr. MLK wasn't just a man with just an impossible dream, but a dream that has to continue to be instilled through hope ranged on freedom, standing solid on brotherhood under one God.